Hey everyone, welcome back to Ember's Corner. My name is Gygus.
And I'm Heron, and welcome to episode whatever this is of Campfire Embers.
Today we're getting back into Nintendo. There was several things that we haven't talked about, and we kind of went over like a very broadened term of some of our favorite Nintendo games, and we are kind of wanting to go a little bit more in depth. Some about the things that we already talked about, but some other ones about some newer games that we haven't talked about. Oh,
Thank you.
just say something.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Sorry.
You did more interrupting if
I'm sorry. Okay, for context, y'all. We are in different seats than we normally are for some reason, and my water is normally to the left of me, but I forgot it when we started this podcast, so I asked Gygus to give it to me.
we
Okay.
can never have a normal intro, can we?
Actually, our intro was pretty good. In all things considered, like we started introducing the topic, and we actually like got kind of into it before something else happened. So we're gonna count this as a win.
But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about some certain things. I know you want to talk about Pokemon, Metroid.
I want to talk about more Zelda games. I want to talk about more Mario games. I want to talk about more things. I want to go more in depth with Kirby. I want to touch on some Nintendo franchises that I haven't even touched, like Earthbound and stuff like that. So
Yeah, so this is once again like our first Nintendo Logic. This is probably not going to be called Nintendo Logic. It's probably going to be called something else. But for Twitch wise, we just called it Nintendo Logic number 2. This is going to be mainly Heron speaking here because I'm not the most knowledgeable about Nintendo. As I said in the previous one, I delve into different things. I've played more like Sony, Microsoft, like those types of stuff, and even Steam. Um, and it's not like I haven't played around with Nintendo, but it's more like casual and not just trying to do everything I can, like and extract as much lore as I can out of this game, like
yeah.
Heron has.
So like I have a tendency to 100% every Nintendo game that I play, which is honestly that's probably a good habit to be in because you get to experience everything a game has to offer that way. But in games like Assassin's Creed, it's incredibly hard to 100% those games.
Yeah.
So I have more experience and I have a better track record with actually finishing games compared to you.
Not necessarily.
Well, I mean that's what you were saying, at least with Nintendo games.
Yeah, with Nintendo games, yeah, but in terms of other games, I tend to be pretty good about completing them.
Yeah, I mean you've done more with the new Pokemon games than I have.
I still haven't beat Scarlet because I was waiting on you. We were trying to do it like have a together gameplay thing.
We were doing good for a while, and then I fell off the face of the planet and delved into my own work, and then I got back into playing it for a little bit, but I'm still behind you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of honestly just replaying it here soon because it's been so long to the point where now I need to re-experience the game.
Well, I mean, Generation Zero is just about to come out if it hasn't already.
Yeah, it's supposed to be I don't know if it's Generation Zero, but we're supposed to get the Mystery of Area Zero. I think is what it's called. It's the DLC for that because we're supposed to get Part 2 Teal Mask here soon.
Oh, and also I don't know if you've noticed or heard about it, but Pokemon cards wise, they just came out with a new series.
Ooh.
I'm not. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it was very interesting because the whole one with Charmander, burning flames or burning embers. What?
I would love if it was called Burning Embers. Heck yeah.
Hang on, I have like the box. One second here. You can talk
I
over
got you.
me.
I got you. But so it's kind of funny because I kind of also got Gygus into collecting Pokemon cards, and he's way more into it than I ever have.
Obsidian flames.
Obsidian Flames. Okay, so that's what it's called.
Yeah, and then Sorry.
Bang,
Mike.
crash, boom.
Yeah, so they came out with a new one. I'm very curious to try them out because I do like Pokemon cards.
Pokemon cards are great, and I mean I've got a good collection as well, but I think you do have more than
I
me.
think I've outgrown
I
even
think
Pokemon cards.
It is official. I think it is official that you have more Pokemon cards with me, which is kind of impressive considering the fact that I've been collecting them since I was like 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. Pokemon. My first
I'm curious to.
Pokemon game I ever played was I got into the I got into the games very late. I got into the games with Pokemon Y and X and Y. So Gen 6 with Kalos on the 3DS. That was the first experience I had with any Pokemon games. And my buddy, my old best friend growing up, I was like maybe three best friends ago. When I was very, very little, he was playing X and Y, and he tried to get me into Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire when those were originally coming out. And I didn't get those. I didn't get my copy of Omega Ruby for like another until like 6th grade. So it was a while. As far as like Pokemon goes, I was definitely a lot more focused on the anime than the actual games and stuff like that because of just how I was growing up. And it was we go into a little bit of more detail about that with our second episode of our podcast. You called it Wii Gaming. But yeah, no, I really, really loved that game. Kalos has a special place in my heart for a lot of reasons. I also personally believe that Pokemon X and Y, the anime series for like those 3 seasons, Kalos Quest, X, Y, and Z, all of those, I personally believe that is the best area, like the best focus of the anime, because Ash is, Ash is a lot more mature. Please cut that out.
Nope.
Ash is a lot more mature. Sorry, I fumbled my speech a little bit there. In that anime, it's just granted, for some reason, Pikachu is back to level 1 as he always is, but he was a little bit more stronger in the beginning of in the beginning of Kalos as well, and I enjoy it a lot more. I think it's a lot more fluid. The story's a little bit better, and just overall, I love the character development for everyone. It's just, I personally believe like Kalos is, the games are pretty easy as far as Pokemon goes. Like that's definitely one of the easier games. It also has some of the longer loading times because it was the first time Pokemon went fully 3D. So it also introduced Mega Evolution, which is a concept that I will always want to come back. Mega Evolution is the coolest extra thing Pokemon has ever done, and this is like talking alongside like Z moves, Gigantamaxing, and or Dynamaxing, and Terrestrialization. Terrestrialization is the dumbest thing that has ever come out of Pokemon. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. Like it literally just switches their type. Like
Yeah.
that's all it does. That does like.
Yeah, I joined Pokemon a little bit later, with it being Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm.
That and you were the person who got me into it. You had both versions, and I started the Sword playthrough, and you restarted Shield.
Yeah,
And that kind of started us like with every Pokemon game ever since. Me being the left and you being the right. Games.
Yeah. Sorry.
Your brain had to think a little bit there.
My brain did not, like, for some reason I was just like, wait, right? Wait, hang on. How do we normally, wait, what? No,
So-
yeah, I've been the only left Pokemon game that I've ever played was Omega Ruby. And like I still want to go back and play Alpha Sapphire because Groudon like and Team Magma and everything in those games are great and everything, but I prefer water, at least compared to like ground and stuff like that. And my favorite color is red, for those of you that don't know, so it's kind of hit or miss with that. I did have a lot of fun with Omega Ruby though, and I definitely think you would enjoy it as well. It's a little bit more linear than the Pokemon games you're used to.
Yeah,
But
So yeah, we went from Sword and Shield, and then shortly after, Brilliant Diamond and
Shining Pearl
Shining Pearl came
BDSP,
out.
because we got the Gen 4 remakes, and that was my first I guess, intro to Gen 4 besides the anime, because I watched a little bit of a Trigger Commerce playthrough of Platinum, but besides that, that's like all I knew. So getting to play, because I played Shining Pearl when you played Brilliant Diamond, and we played those games side by side pretty dang well, actually. And funnily enough, I was the only one to actually beat it.
Yeah, I didn't plan out like well enough whenever I had my own playthrough. I thought I had enough revives, and I went through all my potions, all my revives, and I still didn't win.
Yeah, I mean, I still to this day haven't really had a good run against Cynthia, because she's just god mode level insanely difficult. It doesn't matter what version of the Sinnoh games you play, she's still insanely difficult. But that all to say, I ended up using the I used the milk strat, where I just used as many moves as I possibly could until I got stuck in a rut, and then I just continuously healed until she started using Struggle, because she used all of her power points on all of her other moves on all of her other Pokemon, to the point because Struggle, while it does damage to you, it does recoil damage to the Pokemon in question. So as long as you can survive and just continuously heal, eventually you will just win. So it's a very cheesed strat, but that is the only way I know how to beat Cynthia.
Yeah.
And if I go back and I replay it, I probably can get better, but I have a feeling I'm going to resort to the same thing.
Yeah. And so yeah, that pretty much brings us to Scarlet and Violet, which I still like. It has a lot of bugs and stuff.
Well,
in
I
it.
mean, to be fair, that was when we initially
Well,
played
it still
'cause-
does. It's there still are bugs.
I mean, it was the first fully, because in Pokemon Sword and Shield we had the wild areas, which and we had the you never got to play this, but on the DLC, the Crown Tundra, and the
I
Isle
own
of
it. I
Armor.
just gotta play it.
Yeah, I those areas are also wild areas. So those concepts are essentially the entirety of Scarlet and Violet. That is the environment you're in. There are no linear environments in Scarlet and Violet, which is why it has that many glitches. Because you can have a condensed area in a game, you can float around, but you need those like cornerstone linear areas to reset the game, so you don't have that many glitches in the 3D areas, like the wild areas. At least that's what I thought going into it. And it's honestly, it's a very, very interesting just way of presenting a game, because Nintendo is with the popularity between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo has been leaning a lot more on open world style games, which have been doing very well.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to open world games. I love open world games.
Yeah, exactly. And it allows you to do so many things. Like the coolest thing about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is you can literally go wherever you want. Granted, like some of the surrounding areas will have like high level Pokemon and stuff like that, but you can still go to like the gyms and the towns of those areas, and you can do those challenges, and they will cater to whatever level you are currently at. Sorry, I bumped the mic. So it's interesting because it reminds me. Did you ever watch the Pokemon Origins anime? It's like 4 episodes.
I did not know.
So it's how does this work? It's the story of Red, and if you don't know who Red is the main protagonist of the original Pokemon games. Or you can play as Leaf, which is your girl equivalent in Red and Blue. But Red is interesting because it explores his character, and it shows everything, because that entire anime is based on him completing the Pokedex and going through the story of Kanto back then. But Mega Evolution is driven into it. I forgot why I brought this up. I brought this up for a specific reason. I don't remember what it was.
I think you just went on a tangent.
Did I? No, no, because I had a good point and I don't remember what it was. When Red goes and faces Brock against in that anime, he asks Red how many badges he has at that point. And Red says, well, this is my first gym. So Brock takes that into account and actually has a set team for the trainer class that Red is in at that moment, because he doesn't have any badges. So he has a specific lineup of Pokemon for people with no badges. And I really like that, because that they took that influence in Scarlet and Violet, and that's how they catered the gyms. They just like programmed it so that way wherever you were at badge wise in the game, that's the level of difficulty you had. So you still upscaled the difficulty with the gym badges,
No matter where you were.
no matter where you were, and you could start wherever you wanted, which is so awesome. And I'm so happy because that's how Pokemon games should have been from the get-go. And I get that they didn't have the technology for that kind of stuff back then, but it's a much easier way of playing the game, and it takes influence from the anime, because in the original Pokemon anime, at some point Gary pops over to Ash and is just like, well, I already have 10 gym badges, when you really only need 8 to play the game to beat the game. So it's just like overkill. But the fact that he has those means that there are gyms that are in Kanto that you don't that you can get gym badges from, that you don't necessarily have to challenge. And I think that would be really interesting, an interesting concept for the next Pokemon games. Just having not necessarily 8 gyms, but having more than 8 gyms, but you only needing to get 8 to complete the game. Granted, you can still go back and challenge the other gyms if you wanted to eventually, but I think that would be a really cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, I still like what Scarlet and Violet did with some of them being gyms and then some of them being the rush raids or whatever they were.
What do you mean? Oh,
The team.
well, I mean, you still had the gym badges, because you had but you also had the Team Star stuff, and you had the Titan Pokemon stuff that you did as well.
Yeah.
So it's cool because it gave you more things to do than just.
And it was all based off based off of a certain element.
Exactly, which was really, really cool, and it worked extremely well. Like everything, honestly, the game is fantastic, in retrospect, and I will play it again eventually, because I have so many games that I still have not even even with Sonic Frontiers, like I haven't even touched more than an hour of that game, you know what I mean? So I have multiple games like that. I have games in there that I've never even started playing at all. So it's like I barely scratched the surface of Hollow Knight. I barely scratched the surface of Tears of the Kingdom in its entirety, in all honesty. I barely touched the remaster version of Pokemon. No, remaster version of Metroid Prime and stuff like that as well. So it's interesting. And things like that. So I'll get to it all eventually.
Yeah. Going back to Pokemon though, there's 2 that came out after Obsidian Flames. One being Scarlet and Violet 151, which I want to imagine maybe it's just a Pokédex of maybe a certain thing, or maybe all the Pokemon. And then the other one is Paradox Rift.
Ooh, okay.
That is the new one that's come out for it, and I want to get it because
fair enough. But yeah, no, Pokemon card collecting is fun. Just because it just reminds me of being a kid again, because I didn't get a whole lot of Pokemon cards growing up. My main thing was Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
Yeah, I was pretty into Yu-Gi-Oh growing up, and I've kind of fallen out of it just because it's, to be honest, the animes are kind of dumb right now.
I would, however, like to get a Magic deck.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering is definitely something that I want to get into more as well, because my another really good friend of mine, Aiden, was trying to get me into that back in elementary school. And
well, especially since they have they partner with D&D as well to make their own sets, which I find really great.
Yeah. So it's...
And they also partnered with Lord of the Rings at one point. I don't know if they still do it, but there was a card that you could get. It was called the One Ring card. It was one in existence, and that card literally was worth $1 million.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I always forget the quote that goes along with Lord of the Rings. Do you remember it?
One ring to rule them all.
Well, that, but there's a whole predecessing speech to it.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable about Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings,
yeah,
but
I love it too. It's just...
I'm not one of those people who know every single little detail about Lord of the Rings.
I've read The Hobbit. I have read The Hobbit. I've
it's
seen
on
all
my-
of the movies.
Yeah, it's on my to-do list to read all the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits because I've watched all the movies and stuff.
Yeah,
but
and I mean, my dad had the director's cuts of the.
yeah, mine did too.
Yeah, so
I watched all of them. They were
those are like 3-4 hours a piece.
yeah. I remember the entire day being Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, no, that's what me. Whenever my dad and my sister were sick growing up, at the same time, that's all they would do was watch Lord of the Rings because they were. I mean, they were sick. What else are you gonna do? My favorite thing to do whenever I was sick, and I still do it to this day, is I rewatched Avatar: The Last Airbender, which we're getting very off Nintendo,
Yeah.
but it's fine.
I'm curious just to have a podcast of like no topic whatsoever, and we just start talking about whatever.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's working well. So we had a plan going into this. We're just gonna kind of let the conversation flow from this point on. So enjoy. But going back to Avatar: Last Airbender, I watched it with my mom and I did watch it with my mom, but I watched it more so with my dad and my sister when I was growing up, because when I was very, very young was when it was first airing, so I got to watch it like when it came out on cable with my sister and my dad. And it was just really, really awesome, and because of that, it actually sparked us watching it annually after it finished. And we did the same thing with Legend of Korra, and we were all extremely disappointed in the M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's a horrible movie.
I think everyone can agree with that.
We don't speak of that movie. It's a horrible movie. It should be banished from existence. But I will say I'm very, very excited about this because we're going to be getting a live-action version of Avatar: The Last Airbender on February 22nd, and the original writers for Avatar: The Last Airbender are directing it.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very excited about that, and it comes out right before my 20th birthday, so I'm very, very excited about
Yeah.
that.
Don't remind me. We're about to be 20.
Hey, I'm excited about that, man, because like we get to start the next decade of our lives, and we're actually like starting to get a little bit more understanding of like how the world works and stuff like that, and we're just getting better, and I'm happy about it because it's allowing stuff to be more authentic. We're getting better jobs, we're getting better opportunities overall. We're figuring out how to do all of this stuff before you move to Texas.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to try to delve into more learning about editing and thumbnail making and everything to make content more
Exactly.
better
And I mean,
as well,
I'm going to be
so.
doing the exact same thing when I get my setup, and I'm getting close. Like as soon as I finish buying Christmas presents and paying off my debt, I can start saving for the PC. So, and I've got 6 months to get it. So,
Yep.
but I guess wrapping back around, Pokemon is fantastic, and if you've ever been skeptical about getting into the games, or just anything, just start somewhere. Like pick up a pack of Pokemon cards.
What?
I guess it's pulled out a flamethrower. Very, very on topic with everything we're doing right now. But let's see, because you didn't really have a whole lot of experience with the anime growing up with Pokemon, did you?
No. It was a whole thing about when I was younger about not being okay with Pokemon. My parents.
Pokemon being the devil.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's fine. It's not a issue anymore, but
Nah, I mean, it's it's weird. Lots of Christian parents don't like stuff like that. Don't like D&D because of some ailments and stuff like that. Where we've talked about all of this already.
Yeah.
But yeah, now Pokemon is a fantastic thing, and I'm very, very happy I got into it. I love it. It's fantastic. I will be a part of the series for the entirety of the game. You're making me very hungry right now, good sir.
I'm eating Reese's Pieces.
So I guess moving on, did you ever watch the old Legend of Zelda cartoon?
Like I think I know what you're talking about. It like aired with the Super Mario Super Show.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Yeah. I never ended up getting to watch that, because I could never find it.
Right? I was in the exact same boat because while I was growing up, I never like had access to the old like Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Underground, like stuff or stuff like that. The only one I had was Sonic X because I had access to 4Kids because of cable and stuff like that. But through experiencing those older cartoons and stuff like that, I only experienced it because of like previews on discs that had episode compilations of Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World.
Well, I mean, I heard it didn't really air for very long anyway.
I mean, it's a very different compared to the story of like the actual games and stuff like that. So,
but yeah, like. I watched a bunch of Sonic cartoons and also Super Mario Super Show. That was like one of my favorite cartoons growing up as a kid.
Absolutely. One of my this is just hilarious. When I was little and the Super Mario Bros. Super Show got put on Netflix for a little while. We I wasn't the best at reading. So I would make tiny little mistakes every now and then, and like my people like my parents would correct me or stuff like that, and I would get better at it. But there's an episode of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. It's a cowboy episode called Butch Mario and Luigi the Kid. This is this is so funny because it was one of my favorite episodes, so I would watch it consistently, like over and over and over again when I was a little kid. But I remember this very, very vividly. My mom came in from working. She just got back from working the other day, and she asked, "Hey Dom, what you watching?" And I said, and I quote, "Bitch Mario and Luigi the Kid." I laughed. Like, I look back on that, and it's still like the funniest thing. I didn't do that on purpose at all. I literally thought that's what it said. So there's a little tidbit of my personal life for you. I involuntarily cussed in front of my mother, which was so funny. But I guess going back into those cartoons and things like that, there were 4 Sonic cartoons that released like just because we had the 4Kids anime Sonic X, and then we had the 3 cartoons. We had the Sunday Sonic the Hedgehog, which had like Sally Acorn and all of those characters, like Bunny Rabbit, and all of those, and Uncle Chuck actually being like fully roboticized and everything. But and then we had Sonic Underground, and we had the original Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was the first one to come out. Out of those 4 cartoons, which one was your favorite?
That's really difficult because it's been so long since I watched them. I do remember watching Sonic Underground. Probably the Adventures of Sonic is like the one that I remember the most. But as I said, like it's very I haven't watched it since I was like 6.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, let's see. I watched a lot of Sonic X when I was growing up because Sonic X was airing at the same time another show on 4Kids was airing. It was called Winx Club that my sister was obsessed with.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and I went back and my sister was watching it one day, and I was too tired to care, so I decided to watch it with her, and I was just like, this actually isn't that bad. I didn't really pursue to watch it on my own, but it was a thing that I watched at one point. But going back, between those 4, I watched a good chunk of all of them, but I would say I watched more Sonic X and the Sunday Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon with Sally Acorn. And out of all of those, I still think the Sunday Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon is the best one. Just as far as that, because while Sonic X takes a lot of inspiration from the Sonic Adventure games and stuff like that, I personally believe that the writing wasn't the best. And the nice thing about the Sunday Sonic cartoon was it was a darker take on Sonic. It was a point where Sonic was actually like a full-fledged freedom fighter, and he wasn't just like a wacky like character. He was a little bit more serious, and he had a little bit more just character overall. It made the story feel a lot more realistic. You know what I mean? And it was a lot more in depth than some of the other Sonic cartoons out there, which Sonic Underground was fantastic, and I still remember the theme song to this day. I remember all of them, honestly. But I still think that one was my favorite, just because I loved it so much, and it was the one I watched the most consistently. So, but I guess I don't know, what was your experience? Because you just recently watched Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time.
Oh, so like what do you mean by that?
Because
Like what's my impressions?
yeah,
on
what was
it?
your impression? Like, what did you think about it? Because you had like adult brain going into it. When I was watching it for the first time, I was a 3-year-old. So
Well, I mean, like, I thoroughly enjoyed it, like, constantly wanting to watch more. Because whenever I watched Avatar: and the Last Airbender, I watched it with my family, and so it was only like maybe like 2 or 3 episodes a day
Yeah.
that we could really watch it when we sat down for dinner. But yeah, it was great just being able to watch it, and comedy, like, or the humor in it is still hilarious.
the storytelling is fantastic.
Yeah, it's very, very good. And whenever I started watching Korra, it didn't feel the same.
No, it didn't. And because Korra, how I learned to think about it was Avatar: The Last Airbender is it's its own thing. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very old as far as like the technology is considered in that world, and you have to think of like Legend of Korra as like the Roaring Twenties of that universe. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily because for Avatar: The Last Airbender, it was all about Aang learning how to learning all the elements and like flying around the world and traveling with everybody, all while also fighting the Fire Nation. You know. And also being on the run from Zuko until stuff happens, you know what I mean? So it was a lot more of a war storyline, you know what I mean? Whereas Legend of Korra, new problems shoot up, and she has to figure out how to fix them, as opposed to Aang having one set goal that he has for the entire show of defeating the Fire Lord.
Well, yeah, and even at the end of Last Airbender, it even said like there's usually like a cycle between the
Avatar
avatars. Yeah, because the one before Aang
was Fire Lord Roku.
which brought destruction, which Aang has to clean up, which leads into Korra, which then also starts bringing down destruction.
Yeah,
and
because
it's
in
like,
season 2, how much of Korra have you seen?
I watched, I think, halfway through Korra.
Okay, because I don't know, I don't really know where you are in Korra, so I apologize for spoilers. But at the end of season 2, what happened? And I mean, you can stop me. We can talk about something else. Do you want me to talk about this?
You go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna talk
I
about
mean,
this.
even though it's not Nintendo, but
I mean, we already said that we were just gonna let the conversation flow. So, but at the end of season 2, because season 2 is all about it's called Spirits. For all the seasons out there, for Avatar: Last Airbender, you have book 1 water, book 2 earth, book 3 fire. For season 1 of Korra, you have air, you have spirits, you have change, and then you have balance. So season 2 of Spirits is a lot more heavily on the interconnection between the main world and the spirit world, because one of the more common quotes in Avatar and Legend of Korra is that the Avatar is the bridge between the living world and the spirit world. At least that's what it's supposed to be. So what happens is Korra actually almost dies about halfway through season 2, and she learns about the origin of the Avatar and how Avatar 1 actually got possessed by Rava because he separated her and Vatu and threw the entire world into chaos. And then during Harmonic Convergence, Wan and Rava sealed Vatu in the Tree of Time and closed the spirit portals, cutting off live like a live interaction for the spirits and the actual world. But at the end of season 2, Korra defeats Vaatu and reseals him in the Tree of Time, and instead of or I don't think she reseals him. She may just kill him. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. But instead of closing the portals again, she decides to leave them open, which causes a lot of problems in season 3, and it actually causes a spike in airbenders popping up all over the actual world. Like people who had never bended before in their entire life suddenly had airbending abilities, and it caused a lot of very, very interesting ideas. But so, like that all to say, that's what I'm talking about. Korra is more along the lines of the physical implications of her actions as the Avatar, and fixing and having to fix those problems as they occur. Whereas we have a very finite goal for Aang right at the get-go for Avatar Last Airbender. So you can't really, granted they're in the same world and they are the same timeline and everything, but they are drastically different shows. Even if they take place in the same world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents on it, at least.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all that to say, I'm excited about the live action Avatar, and I'm very, very happy that they're adding more into this world, because we're not only getting a live action Avatar series, we're also going to be getting a young adults gang movie, having the adult versions of Aang, Katara, Sokka, Toph, and Zuko. Just doing whatever. I have no idea what the story is going to be for that. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be getting our 3rd Avatar as well. We're going to be getting a series on an Earth Avatar even further in the future than Korra.
Yeah.
Than Korra is, and that's going to be very interesting. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I definitely see them like just making one of each type, like
absolutely,
and then having that somehow just round out itself into the
Avatar cycle.
The cycle.
So, yeah. So I don't know. Honestly, they can make tons and tons of different things for that. So
yeah. So we probably should cycle back around this, like going off of our tangent. Let's see. We talked about Pokemon. Let's get into Metroid. I haven't played much of Metroid. I've only been playing Metroid Dread, and then I played, believe it was Metroid Fusion. Mm-hmm. So those are the only ones that I got into. And
I guess how was your experience playing Dread?
It was very different from what I've seen of Metroid. I've known of Metroid, and especially from playing Fusion. The whole addition of like Emmys really kind of changed the play style of what Metroid was, adding more of a stealth aspect into certain areas that you had to get around instead of just run and gun and platforming kind of thing. I mean, like, of course, there's also puzzles that Metroid's known for, and it's the same with Dread. But just that whole like stealth bit adds kind of a horror aspect and really brings the name of Dread into the Metroid Dread series. And I kind of hope they kind of bring more of that into future installments of Metroid, because that's a really cool concept for Metroid to go into.
Absolutely. And I mean, for those of you that don't know, Metroid has two separate timelines. You have the Prime timeline, which is its completely own thing. Granted, it still has the main character, and I think there is still ties between like that in the main series of the games. But then you have Metroid Prime. Then you have Metroid Dread, which is I think it's supposed to be the ending predecessor. It was supposed to be the ending predecessor for the main storyline of Metroid, because I believe it goes the original Metroid, then you have Metroid 2: Return of Samus, then you have Super Metroid, then you have Metroid Fusion, and then you have Metroid Dread. That is the timeline for that series of events. Whereas Metroid Prime 1 through 3 is its different thing entirely. And fingers crossed we get Metroid Prime 4 eventually.
Yeah, I would like to play Metroid Prime.
It's a very different style of Metroid because the other Metroid games are 2D, just intervals and stuff like that. Whereas Prime and like Other M and stuff like that are
first person.
or first person. So it's a very, very different style of Metroid, and it forces you to think a lot more on the corresponding puzzles. Whereas every room in like Metroid Fusion, granted, you do have a map as well, but you have a 3D interactive map in Metroid Prime, as opposed to having a top-down view of something like Breath of the Wild, where you would just have a map and you have like checkpoints throughout those. You actually have a 3D interactive map of the entire area that you go through in the Prime games, which is a very, very cool way of doing that. First of all, but my first Metroid game I ever played was Fusion. And as you know, Fusion is my favorite Metroid game because of nostalgia reasons, and I honestly think it's just a great game. And I mean, you played it too. What was your first experience with playing Fusion?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't really know what I was gonna get into because my first ever Metroid game that I played and completed was Dread.
I like you say completed. Did you ever actually end up beating the final boss?
I believe so. It's been years since I played it, since it came out, because I pretty much just ran through the entire game whenever it first came out. But
Yeah.
I played Fusion later on, so I didn't really know what to expect. But as soon as it came out for the Switch ports, I decided to try it out and play it, and decided to spend I don't even know how many hours and just beat it.
It's a fantastic game. Over all of them are great games. I will say that as far as like, as far as like outdated games go, anything besides the Prime games, Fusion, Super Metroid, and Metroid Dread are gonna be hard to get into just because they're older games. Like Metroid. The funny thing is, Metroid 2, Return of Samus didn't even have it didn't even have a copy of it that was released for the US. It was originally a game that was only released for Japan on the Game Boy. So the fact that we're getting to be able to play those games now via the Virtual Console on the Switch and everything is just really, really cool. Granted, they did come out with another version of Metroid 2 with Metroid Zero Mission, which does kind of go into the story of Metroid 2 Return of Samus and stuff like that. But it's it's a very interesting timeline. Essentially the timeline of Metroid, and I apologize if I get any of this wrong. It's been a very long time since I've touched Metroid at all. So essentially what happened was there were these beings on a planet. I forget what it was essentially called, but they were talking about the Metroids, obviously, and Samus, being an intergalactic bounty hunter, goes to the planet. I think it's planet Zebes is the original, is the main planet in the entirety of those games. And what she does is she goes in and tries to rid and essentially put the race and the species of Metroid into extinction. What ends up happening, however, is she ends up finding that her rival, Ridley, which is a space pirate, Captain Ridley, I believe, is his actual name, has been conspiring in that on Zebes as well with Mother Brain. So she uncovers a conspiracy that leads her into destroying Mother Brain and putting a major dent in just the galactic welfare of that entire universe. Metroid 2 dives a lot more into what Metroid tries to do in its with Samus's original mission of going to planet Zebes and extincting the Metroids, and she does. However, she ends up finding a baby Metroid, which she can't find in her heart to kill. So she ends up taking it with her, and then we fast forward to Super Metroid, where she left the baby Metroid in care of some scientists in another colony, but what she didn't know was that Ridley actually escaped planet Zebes before it blew up and stuff like that. And so he kidnaps the baby Metroid at the beginning of Super Metroid, and then we find out that I guess this was before Planet Zebes blew up, because as soon as because that's what Super Metroid is it's Samus trying to get back to Planet Zebes and trying to recover the baby Metroid before anything else happens. And what ends up happening is Ridley and the Space Pirates actually end up resurrecting Mother Brain, and then Samus has to go through and refight all of her generals and everything, and essentially do a glorified version of exactly what happened at the end of the first game. But there's an extra thing that happens at the end where Mother Brain ends up actually getting a fully functional body, and having this kind of infinity laser thing that it just obliterates everything in her path. But the cool thing about the Metroids is at this point the baby Metroid has grown up and actually sucks the power out of Mother Brain and gives it to Samus, which ends up so Samus ends up killing Mother Brain, and then in a fast pass kind of very, very heavy anxiety inducing experience, you end up having to escape Planet Zebes before it blows up. And after Planet Zebes blows up, you think that's the end of the Metroid, because in order to get the power from Mother Brain and transfer it over to Samus at the end, the baby Metroid actually ended up sacrificing itself. Fast forward to Metroid Fusion, and what ends up happening there is Samus goes to a different planet in its entirety, checking out another threat, and that ends up being the X-Parasite. And the X-Parasite ends up passing through her DNA, through her Chozo DNA, because if you want to get into lore of Samus, her planet was originally invaded by the Space Pirates, led by Captain Ridley, and it was completely destroyed. But the Chozo species actually took her in, gave them some of her DNA, and actually trained her in the art of those that types of combat. So the whole reason why she has the power suit in the first place, and why she can go into morph ball mode and stuff like that, is because she has Chozo DNA in her. Which is why she has those abilities and things like that in the world of Metroid. But what ends up happening at the beginning of Metroid Fusion is, through an expedition, Samus ends up getting infected with the X-Parasite, causing her to lose consciousness, drifting into an asteroid belt, and her almost dying. But what ends up happening is she actually they found a vaccine using some of the DNA from the original research institute that had the baby Metroid in between Super Metroid and Metroid 2. That cured her and swapped out her DNA to being able to absorb the X-Parasites and heal her that way, which is why those become like your standard healing power-ups and stuff like that in Metroid Dread and Metroid Fusion. And then you have everything going on, because then she goes in, she's trying to cause the extinction for the X-Parasite and Metroid Fusion, and it leads her into a different planet in Metroid Dread. And the whole goal for Metroid Dread is for you to figure out how the X-Parasite survived and what caused the distress signal to post out in the first place. So that's what leads you to Metroid Dread. And unfortunately, I haven't beaten Metroid Dread, so I don't know where the story goes from there. But that's essentially everything leading up to Metroid Dread, which is the most current Metroid game out right now. Besides the remastered version of Metroid Prime, which Metroid Prime takes place way before the original Metroid does in the first place anyway, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
There you go, lore dump.
Alright, talking about older games, since we're on the topic, mm-hmm. You started playing Mario 64 and and actually, you're going to be probably playing this after we're done with this podcast.
Yep.
Want to shed some light about what your thoughts are on it right now?
So I was not expecting that series to do as well as it is. Like, I knew it was going to be. I was kind of going to be using a little bit of a party wagon with the Rise of Mario Wonder and how well that did on our channel, but I was very, very surprised to get over 100 views on Mario 64's first episode, and to get almost 300 views on its next part. And I'm hoping we get somewhere around the same numbers on the third episode as well, because it's I mean, it's my favorite game of all time, and I'm very, very happy that people are enjoying it as much as I'm playing it. So, it honestly it blew me away with things like that. And I mean, I was already kind of going into this channel, originally planning on doing a little bit more, doing some more Nintendo games as opposed to Gygas's gear as well. The whole reason we started with Will of the Myth was because we wanted to get a feel for recording with each other. We wanted to get a feel for the equipment, and we wanted to experience new games with you guys. And then that fell into Gygas wanting to pursue a solo streaming series with Potion Permit, and me doing a solo Let's Play series of Amnesia and stuff like that. But then we decided, after Played Up came out and we started playing that as well, with the rise of Mario Wonder, we decided to grab a capture card and start recording Nintendo content because we're both very, very big Mario fans. So we wanted to kind of not necessarily capitalize off the aspect, but we wanted to experience that game with you guys as it was as it just came out. So that's why we started doing that series. And I always wanted to have, it's been a dream of mine to have a Let's Play of Mario 64 on YouTube that people could view, because I mean, it is my favorite game of all time. I grew up watching Let's Plays and various other things, and I actually found one of my favorite Let's Players, Josh Jepson, through a Let's Play of Mario 64. A large majority of why I know that game so well is because I watched his Let's Play while I was growing up. And I did the same thing when him and Tyler Cedarwall versed Mario 64 on their Versus channel as well. So that's the whole reason why I started playing those games in the first place, and part of the reason why Mario 64 is my favorite game of all time. But all that to say, because of how well Mario 64 is doing, I've decided that I'm going to be postponing the continuation of the Amnesia series because of how well Nintendo content, specifically Mario content, is doing on the channel, and I'm having more fun recording Mario 64 and Mario Wonder just in its entirety. All that to say, Amnesia won't necessarily be going away. It's just going to it will be coming back in October of next year when we have a better idea of what we're going to be doing for October.
Yeah, we very much kind of didn't schedule things properly whenever it came to October. I mean, even now we're still trying to figure everything out. So hopefully by this time next year we'll have a lot better.
We'll have a more consistent schedule. We'll be fingers crossed we'll have finished whatever games we're playing in like September, so that way we can fully dive into a Spooktober theme for October of next year. And then I will be revisiting Amnesia, and I will be completing at least the first game during the month of October, possibly the second.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a lot better of a grasp on content creation and stuff by that point.
Exactly. Sorry. It's okay. And I mean, as far as spooky games too, like I plan to, fingers crossed, own a GameCube at that point, and I want to possibly play Luigi's Mansion, or give you the equipment so you can experience Luigi's Mansion, because I know you've played Dark Moon and you've played a little bit of Luigi's Mansion 3, but you've never played the original. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely one that you need to play.
Yeah.
And with the re-release of Dark Moon coming out for the Switch under Luigi's Mansion 2, I'm excited because a lot of people didn't get to play that game because they didn't own 3DSs. So I'm also just excited because I get to play that game again. So I mean, it's a great game. I loved every part of it. So
yeah, and I guess since we're getting closer to the end of time, there's one last thing that I did want to kind of talk about, and it's about just a short little game that we're going to be playing Saturday, for anyone who's watching the VOD and stuff. We're going to be playing Mario Kart 8 as like a little fun little thing to do, because we have surpassed 10 subscribers and over 1,000 views.
Yep, across all of our videos, we have breached the counter of 1,000 views, which is insane.
Yeah, it's like that's an insane amount of people to watch our content.
Like, even if it's not necessarily just like 1,000 different people, the fact that even like 100 people have seen over the course of all the content that we've made, have seen our videos, is incredible. And
yeah, and especially because we've only been doing content creation for about almost 3 months now. That's crazy for growth.
Exactly. Like,
and
it's insane because granted, our retention is still not the best, but that's just going to come with time. But the fact that we're still getting like 200, 300 people viewing any one of our videos is still unfathomable to me. Like, I still look at those numbers and I'm just like, how are people enjoying a piece of content that we created? Like, what?
Yeah. So we're gonna be playing Mario Kart 8 as just a fun thing to do, and also as a thank you for you guys for all the support that you've given us and all the positive feedback for just by watching our videos. And so yeah, it's just something kind of a little more laid back, even though we are competitive with Mario Kart.
We are
It's just something.
extremely
It's just something
competitive,
for
yeah.
us to just play and kind of like talk and stuff like that. Just as like a special thing.
Yeah, so we that's kind of our goal for Saturday is we're gonna be trying to get there around noon. Fingers crossed. It's also unfortunately I will be taking a leave of absence for about a week from Members Corner because of the holidays coming up for Thanksgiving and everything. So we're trying to do a bulk recording session between today and Saturday as well, just so we can get enough content for you guys for that. And then we'll be doing the same thing about halfway through December when I take another vacation as well, because people my family is split around the state I live in, so I I have to fly around all over the place and I have to visit them because I mean they are my family and it is the holidays. So
Yeah. In terms of upcoming things, the month of January, you guys will see a increase of videos from me specifically. I have some plans to do some more solo stuff, and hopefully by January you guys will see some more solo stuff from me as well, as I will have more time to do things.
yep. The nice thing, what we plan on doing eventually is we want to have it so we have 2 solo series each going on at the same time on the channel. Me most likely working on some Nintendo games, and then you working on some other games as well. We'll have the podcast consistently going up. We do apologize with with everything that's been going on with the videos lately. Unfortunately, we ran into some real life struggles and we were unable to meet up for about a week and a half. So we ran out of content and we ended up having to cycle through some Played Up and some Mario 64 for the last couple of days. But we are proud to announce that we have more Wonder coming out here soon. So look forward to that. And but all that to say, having 2 solo Let's Plays, having at least 1, possibly 2 co-op games going on between the 2 of us, and having the podcast as well, there's gonna be no shortage of content coming your guys' way in 2024. So
Yeah, that's certain.
absolutely. And of course there is still the thing about me having my PC set up. I'm doing very, very well financially at the moment, and I have everything is looking good for me to start saving up for my PC. And as soon as I get my PC, that's when everything changes for this channel, because I'll be able to edit videos, I'll be able to do custom content, we'll be able to start doing verses, which is something we've been wanting to do for ages, and we'll be able to start doing bigger content, things like
Well, even
Minecraft.
even bigger games as well,
Yeah,
since
so-
both of us will be able to do like online multiplayer stuff.
Exactly. So we'll be able to play games like modded Terraria, modded Stardew Valley, modded Minecraft, and various things like that. We'll be able to play bigger games like Hogwarts Legacy and things like that as well. That we don't necessarily know if we'll be doing series on, but the fact that we have that much more freedom with content allows us to have that much more content for you guys in its entirety. So we got big plans coming up and we've got some changes. So unfortunately, if you were enjoying the Amnesia series, I do apologize, but it's not going away. It will be returning in about a year. So so that all to say, that's a little bit of an update with what's going on, and thank you for listening to this podcast. With everything, sorry we kind of went on a tangent but we did still talk about some Nintendo stuff, which we still did touch on Pokemon, which is one thing that I really did want to talk about in this one, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about my experience with Metroid and just the information I know about the game. I know there's still multiple Nintendo series that I have not touched on, even in the slightest, but I'll be talking about them eventually. So we do have a couple of ideas for other podcast episodes as well. Hopefully we can get back into doing more consistently with this stuff. But thank you guys for being patient with us, and just please like, comment, subscribe, give us feedback, because we are still in very much the beginning era of our channel.
Yes.
with everything, even with passing over 1,000 total views and having 10 consistent subscribers and things like that as well. So please help us out. Give us a like, give us a shout out, a comment. Call us idiots, whatever you want, just as long as it's a comment, we'll take it. Yeah, please like whatever we put out, just because it, even if you don't necessarily like the video, it does help us out in the long time. And the more content that we have, and the longer we do this, the better we get. So we are definitely significantly better than how we were when we originally started this back in August.
Yes.
So so thank you guys for being patient with us, and we promise to do better going out here. So thank you once again for absolutely everything. Thank you for enjoying this episode of Campfire Embers as it makes its return, along with other content as well galore. And please join me a little bit later as I play some Mario 64. Yes, we're going to be continuing that, and I'm going to be fixing a mistake that I made in episode 2 that I caught, and I'm very, very embarrassed to say that I missed the 100 coin star in Cool Cool Mountain. So that is what we will be starting with, getting back into it. So I appreciate you guys, your guys' support on that series as well, and I know Gygas does too. And thank you guys for enjoying those videos, because they're a very, very big, heavy combined effort between me and Gygas, as long as just as long on the same level as everything else we put out. So
Yeah.
sorry, just thankfulness dump and various other things like that. I'll go ahead and get out of your hair now, and I'll see you here very, very shortly for some Mario 64.
Bye, guys.
Thank you again. Deuces.